so-and-so is waiting in the lobby notifications. They appear to all attendees. Harry, who's in our tech team, will admit any latecomers, but if you find these notifications distracting, you might prefer to open up the participants list on the right-hand side, which stops the notifications from appearing on your screen. So I'm going to hand over first to Lesley English and Nicola Wylie from Lancaster University, and they are going to talk about reimagining staff development at Lancaster University Library. So over to you.
Thanks, Helen. Okay, I'm just going to share our slides with you. Okay, Nicola, can you tell me if you can see the slides okay?
Yeah, I can see those. Great,
thank you. So it's lovely to see. I can't really see people today, but I can see the numbers in the room. So it's lovely that you're joining us today as Nicola and I talk about the staff development group at Lancaster University Library and how particularly over the past 18 months we've redeveloped, providing inclusive, engaging and celebratory opportunities in the midst of a pandemic. So just to start by introducing ourselves, my name's Lesley English and I'm the Library Engagement Manager at Lancaster University and also Chair of the Library and Learning Development Staff Development Group.
And I'm Nicola Wylie. I'm Research Intelligence Projects Officer. Can you hear a feedback or is that just me?
I can't hear any feedback.
You can, okay. I can work with it. Okay. And I am on the Staff Development Group and also the Wellbeing Group too.
Thanks, Nicola. Okay, so at Lancaster we did already have a well-established culture of supporting staff development, and that's both through the university's educational development division and through our own library and learning development staff development group. So in this presentation today, we're going to share how our journey and how it has developed and how our approach to staff development has developed over the past 18 months really, and how the role and the profile of the group has grown. So what we're going to do is introduce you to some of the new strands that have emerged during the pandemic. So those include the midday seminar series, the wellbeing group. So some of you may have been in Nicola's workshop just before this session, so you'll have heard about a little bit more about the wellbeing group, about our celebrating success events and about supporting career entry into the profession. And we'll conclude the presentation today by reflecting on how we meet the challenges that are coming up of supporting staff as they're working in a hybrid environment, as well as sharing our future plans. Okay, so I'm going to start by taking you on our staff development journey. So traditionally, perceptions of staff development have included our sort of formal qualifications, certifications and desk-based learning. So these perceptions can be prescriptive and exclusive and a bit of a closed mindset. So as a group, we purposely challenged those perceptions, moving towards an inclusive understanding of what staff development is. So through the group, we promote a range of activities and recognise their importance for all staff. So regardless of their grade, their point in the career or their full-time equivalent. So recognising people want to keep up to date with a blog or catch up on a webinar and develop a skill set needed to deliver excellent customer service within that continuously evolving environment. So the focus on adaptation and resilience has been so relevant during the pandemic, that period of change. So we've all experienced changes to the way we work and the environments that we're working within. And we've all adapted to new ways of working and developed skill sets or acquired new ones. So it was probably around December 2019 when I took over leadership of the staff development group, and the group grew so that it does include membership from all of the teams across the library and the learning development. So we have a team currently of 10 people, and at the point where we were thinking about how we adapt, how we moved forward, we were really had, nobody knew what was coming with the pandemic. The group really rose to the challenge of supporting staff from working from home, and the role of the group and the opportunities provided expanded during this time. And the value of these opportunities have been recognised by the library management team, and the amended terms of reference have made the chair of the staff development group an ex officio member of the LMT, the management team. So it means that staff development is interwoven into the governance structure. So let me just go back one. So for the remainder of the session, we'll share with you those 4 new strands of the staff development group. And this slide really captures the group. It's our approach. We kind of run with ideas. Sometimes it's quite hard because there's too many ideas, but we really are willing to try things out. So I'm going to start off with the midday seminar series, and we had started to plan these just before we went into the pandemic, and we launched the first seminar was in April, just after everybody, we were all working from home. So you might think, well, what's with the name? So we had very, very long discussions about the name, and we wanted to convey the idea. So the sessions would always take place 12 till 1, 1 till 2, but we didn't want to say lunchtime seminar series. It was a case of we didn't want people to think they had to attend in their lunchtime. We wanted them to know it was okay to attend in work time. So the sessions are usually they're usually an hour in length, and we have 2 to 3 speakers, with time for Q&A and discussion, and they have all been delivered through Microsoft Teams. And the sessions are recorded, so we do try and vary the days of the week these run, but it means that staff unable to attend can catch up on them afterwards. And even before we ran that first online event, one of our aims for the midday seminars was to bring our library teams together for a shared purpose. So at the time when we were planning this, we'd envisaged having a library urn, a coffee urn, and we wanted to put that space in people's calendars to come along, have a coffee, catch up with colleagues and engage in discussion. So while we started the series on Teams, we couldn't be in the same physical room. They really did make us feel like a connected team while we were working from various locations, and they did help us develop that community of practice. And as a byproduct of that, supported the wellbeing agenda. And I think some people genuinely came just because it was a chance for us to be in a space together. So where relevant, we do open the seminars up to the wider university, and we also invite colleagues from our nearby University of Cumbria campus to attend as well. So because we do have membership of the group across all of our teams, it means we are developing a programme that covers a range of topics that's relevant to and of interest to staff. So speakers have included our own staff sharing practice, staff from across the university, and we do invite external speakers. So from April, we've coordinated around 1 seminar a month, and you can see some of the titles of the seminars on the screen there. So we've had seminars on academic libraries and supporting the wellbeing agenda, topics relating to equality, diversity and inclusion, which includes diversity in academic libraries, and lived experiences of students and staff, digital innovation speakers, maker spaces, and the most recent session focused on research carried out by some of our learning development team who are speaking today, which was looking at students' reading preferences. And it was not just the research results, but about the process of carrying out the research. So before I move on, I'm just going to share a very, very short clip from you, and you may have heard some of this in Josh's talk earlier on the anti-racism advocacy. So Josh was speaking about diversity in academic libraries.
And so all of this means that countless BAME people living right here in the UK face a disproportionate, unfair, uphill struggle, a struggle that's extremely difficult to articulate, to translate for those who don't have a direct personal experience. The truth is that before they ever arrive here at university with their hopes, dreams and aspirations, our BAME students, our applicants, colleagues, those who may one day consider working with us, and members of the wider community are extremely likely to have experienced inequality, microaggressions, institutional, structural, and overt racism. And as we'll see next, they then find themselves within a prestigious institution where they may feel out of place, where they don't see leaders and role models that look like them, that really understand the challenges they've faced, the obstacles they've overcome just to get their foot in the door.
Oh goodness, sorry, everything's gone a little bit pear-shaped, so let me go back. Oh, okay, so Nicola, I'll hand over to you.
Good save, thanks Lesley. And I was just going to say I totally recommend Josh's session if you didn't get to see that this morning. Really a good one to go to. So wellbeing is not classically seen as staff development. You know, it's not an extra qualification that you can do to look after your well-being, but I think we can all agree that especially during the pandemic it's been a really important factor, and we've really moved with this at Lancaster. Anyone who managed to go to my previous session will have heard me say this already, but when someone says how are you, I'm one of the people who goes, yeah, fine, thanks, how are you? When in reality I might have thrown my coffee down myself in the morning, like tripped over something, and I'm having a bit of a fuzzy day. So everyone should ask themselves and others, you know, how are you really? You know, don't just take the fobbed off answer. Next slide, please, Lesley. So we created a wellbeing group. So this is a subgroup of the staff development group. So we report back into the staff development group, and then that goes back up to LMT. So it has got that leadership element to it. We have a staff and student focus. We're only going to focus on staff here, just for the purposes of this talk. But we have thought about including student representation moving forward, especially as the new term starts. We've got about 8 members, I think, of the wellbeing group at the moment. It's all voluntary. And the serendipity gap is something that we identified by internal workshops in about November of 2020. And I think it's hardly surprising that people miss, you know, the conversations in the kitchen, walking past people in the corridor and catching up. So some of the work that we've done has been to try the best we can to kind of recreate that. Next slide, please. So at the beginning, of course, everything could only be done online. So, you know, we didn't want to put too much on because of kind of Teams fatigue, things like that. But one of the things we did was we took part in the Time to Talk Day, which is like a national mental health initiative. Can't just remember the date off the top of my head, but we essentially encouraged people to like speak with one other person, and then that person would speak with one other person and do it as like kind of a chain, and just have a general conversation about how you're feeling, include a bit about, you know, mental health, things like that. And for me, who was a new-ish member of staff in the library, so I've been with the library for about 12 months now, that was a great chance to meet people as well, people that I didn't even, you know, didn't know what the faces looked like, because I'd only seen the name listed on Microsoft Teams. And then a second initiative that we did was coffee roulette. So we within the same week would invite people to like a 45-minute slot, not at lunchtime, you know, a random time, 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, just be like, anyone free? And then whoever turns up, say it's like 10, 15 people, will have a bit of a catch up all together to start with, and then break off into smaller groups, because we know that not everyone like is comfortable speaking in a large group. And that was a great chance to, again, catch up with colleagues that you wouldn't ordinarily speak to. And it's very valued work. Next slide, please. So as I said, this was all online. More recently, we've been able to overcome the Teams fatigue and do some in-person things. So one of the most recent things is wellbeing walks. So Lesley actually led one around Williamson Park, which is, I was going to say a flat park, but it's very hilly actually. I didn't get to go to that because I'm not living in Lancaster and I couldn't make it, but I know a lot of colleagues really enjoyed that. And then we did another walk up Nicky Nook, which is quite close to Lancaster. And one of my challenges was being able to talk to people and walk up a hill at the same time. I've not mastered it. So yeah, that was really, really nice. And I also love this mountain, right, because it represents well-being. Bear with me here. Well-being has its ups and downs. So, you know, you get to the top of the mountain and you're like feeling great, and then you're like, oh, downhill again, and then you have to pick yourself up. You know, it's a constant work. So yeah, that's why I use that image. So next slide, please. And another analogy, we are all different. Some of us have big leaves, some of us have small leaves, some of us want to be in the sunlight all of the time, some of us need to hibernate in winter. And when we were thinking of all these different wellbeing initiatives, we thought we don't want to do just what the people who volunteer to be part of the wellbeing group do. We want to do things for everyone. So it's something that we're constantly working at, but absolutely taking into account individual differences is at the forefront of what we're thinking about. And then next slide, please. Yeah, so wellbeing isn't done. We didn't just start talking about it because of the pandemic. That might have got the ball rolling a bit faster than it was. We were already having conversations about wellbeing, though, even prior to me joining the library. And yeah, we just want to make sure that it's not a tick box exercise. And now that we're able to do more things in person, you know, we're just going to ensure that the conversation continues. And I'll pass back to you at that point, Lesley.
Thanks, Nicola. So I'm just going to talk quite briefly about the Celebrating Success events. And earlier, a couple of years ago probably, we had a staff development event where we had 4 members across the library talk about their own professional development and some courses that they'd gone through, and they'd got, you know, an award at the end of it. So we wanted to build on this idea and extend it. So we wanted to highlight areas of personal staff development where people had stretched themselves and achieved something. So we organised in November the first of a now 6 monthly event, which is held on Microsoft Teams. And the aim of that is to celebrate staff successes and highlight their achievements, to draw attention to the range of staff development opportunities on offer, and to inspire others to think about their own personal development. So in preparation for those events, managers are asked to collate information about their own teams, and originally there were just the 4 categories, and that's now grown from that first event. So those were any staff who'd achieved a qualification, you know, it could be a digital skills certificate at the university or something nationally recognised, a course that they'd attended, whether they'd published or presented, and any new roles and projects. And that's the area that's really grown, because, you know, there's lots of areas that we can potentially people can celebrate where they've taken something new on. We were really sceptical as a group that people would want to come and talk about their experiences, but we were completely wrong. And at the first event, we had 17 members of our teams. They wanted to speak about their experience, and we did have to limit their presentations to 5 minutes each. And just sort of collating the feedback, felt like it was a real feel-good event. So I'm going to pass over to Nicola now. So she's talking about supporting career entry.
Thanks, Lesley. And just to say that Celebrating Success event was like so wholesome, and I feel like we were all crying at the end because we were just proud of all the achievements that we'd managed over the past several months. But moving on to supporting career entry into the profession. we all know that there's a broad range of careers available in the library, from librarian to IT development, systems development, data analyst. I personally had no clue of this as a student, and even when I first started working in higher education, I didn't realise the breadth of things that went on in the library. So next slide, please. One of the things that some of us have been working on doing is building stronger links with the careers team. So have them informed enough to be able to talk to students and graduates about opportunities that the library world might present to them, things that they wouldn't ordinarily have thought of. We also are wanting to do, hopefully in the future, like internships or something like that. But in the meantime, we had a couple of students in who did like a taster week for special collections, and also a couple of people who just joined generally the library and would attend like some meetings, and this was via Teams, the taster session, but it was just a chance for, even though it was only like a handful of students, to get them to see what it's like and see the awesome culture that exists in Lancaster. And also we have had a member of the staff development group do a like career session as well to a number of students. So that's great, and there's a lot of scope for using that in the future for like web content, things like that, because we did record it, so that's fab. And just general planning.
There's 5 minutes remaining.
Thank you.
Including questions.
Awesome. So yeah, it's just an area that we're planning in. I mentioned we would like to do internships. Next slide, please, Lesley. So the final thing that we did is, that I'll talk about today, I guess we've done loads, too much to fit in, is our career stories for library and learning development. So we got 8 members of staff who just had 5 minutes each, and they weren't allowed slides either because they wanted people to see each other's faces if people were comfortable putting cameras on, and just make it more of a conversation. So people detailed, how they'd got into the role, what they actually do, because there's loads of people whose job titles, I don't know what they do on a day-to-day basis. So that was really great. And again, a proud moment actually to hear the vast number of routes that people had come in from, and we had people who used to work in like prison libraries, or they'd had an academic career previously and now there they were in the library, which was great to see. And it was also an opportunity for presentation practice too, and linking people up when someone said, I'm not sure about this, someone else in the library could be like, oh, I can help you with that. So that was really nice. And yeah, so this is the one recorded, sorry, I just realised I was saying earlier about recording work experience, but yeah, we recorded this, and we'll use that in the future. And we've got another one planned soon as well, because it was very popular and people wanted to get their own stories across. And that's it from me. Over to you very quickly, Lesley.
Yeah, very quickly. So as we approach a new year and different ways of working, we need to really stop as a group and reflect on what we've achieved and where we're going, and make sure the staff development group moves forward with the hybrid workforce. So while we're thinking about how we can offer some of our midday seminars in a hybrid way, we don't want to lose what we've gained with offering online. So the chance to have speakers from anywhere, not having to travel up to Lancaster, the fact that they can be recorded and anyone can catch up with those. So we are hoping to offer, something where we're in a room, we have that chance to catch up, but people can also join us from wherever they're working. We do need to do more about evaluation. We know that we look at the chat, we look at feedback in that way, but we haven't done any proper evaluation of what we've done so far. So that's something that we really need to look at to make sure that we are offering, to make sure that we're not missing anything really. And I often wonder how we're going to keep up the momentum. This isn't our substantial role. We're all volunteers, and as everybody's, we're pulled in many directions. We're lucky to have a really enthusiastic and energetic group, but we do need to think about, this rolling programme. So that's something else to think about. And finally, one thing that we've been thinking about for a while is a theory into practice strand, where we can timetable space for people to come along, whether online online or in a room to read, to write, to discuss topics of relevance to their work. So maybe similar to a writing retreat. So we will probably find ourselves updating you on how that went. So sorry, we haven't left a lot of time for questions, but I'm also going to put our email addresses on the slide there in case you do want to follow up with us on anything.
Thank you so much, Lesley and Nicola. That was brilliant. And yes, we have time for one question. So if anybody has any, please do pop your hand up. But yes, people can follow up via email or indeed connect with you via Teams during the rest of the conference. So I'm just looking at raised hands. Do we have any questions? I have one. It's a very simple one, hopefully. What do you do for your frontline staff during your live midday seminars? Do you close customer services desks to allow them to attend, or are they recorded that they can watch back?
Yeah, we haven't closed any desks, but they are always recorded.
Okay.
And we do try and vary the days of the week so that so different people can attend. And they are pretty well caught up. You know, if people are interested, they'll catch up on the recording afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Last chance for questions. All right. Well, thank you very much, Lesley and Nicola. I'm going to invite now Frances Porritt to turn her camera on.
Hello.
Excellent. There. Hello, Frances. Oh, sorry, Fran. It wasn't
Fran,
it. I
yes,
apologise.
yes.
Yeah, Fran from Teesside University. So Fran is going to be talking about Mentally Healthy Universities project, Working with Mind. So I'll set the timer and I'll let you know when you have 5 minutes, including questions, Fran. So over to you.
Thanks very much, Helen. So just bear with me while I share my slides. Hopefully this will work. And where are we? There we go. So I'm going to be talking about the Mentally Healthy Universities project, which was a national project. I'm talking about the Teesside University experience, and I work for Teesside University Student and Library Services. And Sinead Murphy was the project coordinator at Middlesbrough and Stockton Mind. So just moving on. Doesn't want to move. There we go. So it was a pilot project. It began in 2019 and I wasn't involved in the first year of the project. So I took over when my line manager retired from the university. So unfortunately, I can't give you the whole overview of the whole project, but it was a 2-year project and we ended the project in August of this year. But we're hoping to continue with the work and not lose the momentum that we've gained. So I'll talk about that at the end of the presentation. 9 universities were involved, and there is a presentation at this conference from another university, Leeds Beckett, who were also involved. But there was a whole range of universities, including Cambridge. So there was universities like us, widening participation universities, and then others that were quite different in the types of students that went to them. So there was 2 strands to the project. There was support for both staff and students, and I was involved on the student side of the project, even though I had an overview of the whole project. But on the staff side, there was the occupational health team, and plus HR were involved as well, the deputy director of HR. And it was redeveloped due to COVID because originally in the first year of the pilot, sessions were face-to-face, and then we had to move to online to deliver the sessions. And there was various concerns with that because the sessions had been designed to be interactive and to kind of feel that group dynamic, whereas it is slightly different in an online environment. So there were various challenges due to COVID, as you might expect. But just to say, in relation to COVID, that as I said, that the project had started in 2019 before COVID, when we'd seen a huge rise in the number of counselling referrals. We had a huge waiting list at the university. So already the issues to do with mental health were needing to be addressed in a different way. So this is where Mind developed the project in association with Goldman Sachs, who funded it. So just moving on to the aims of the project then. So on the student side, it was to increase awareness about mental health, and also to increase awareness about the impact of university and how that can impact on mental health and well-being. The next point about preparing students for the transition into the workplace, that was very much involved with thinking about the employability in gender as well, but we've got specific sessions on that transition into the workplace. And then the final point, providing students with tools and techniques to support their mental health and well-being. There was a specific session or a series of sessions aimed at that side of it as well. So a whole range of tools and techniques that students could employ going forward once they'd left university. And then on the staff side, which I believe Leeds Beckett are talking about, one of the aims was to build a network of staff champions whose role is to reduce mental health awareness, increase mental health awareness and to reduce stigma linked with mental health. So it was the stigma side that was very much forefront in our minds of there is a lot of stigma attached to mental health issues, or there has been previously. Another aim was to build a network of staff peer supporters, and then also to help the university implementing the mental health at work commitment. So that's where HR and occupational health very much came in, and they'd work through all of the points in that mental health at work commitment charter. So just to look at the overall aim of the project, it was to help change the culture in higher education to make sure that it was conducive to good mental health, and to build those long-term relationships between universities and local mental health providers. So it has really achieved that aim, I believe. So we've got a very strong partnership now with the local Mind organisation. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the student sessions and engagement with those sessions. So the first workshop that was offered was Wellbeing Essentials for Students, and this was aimed at first year students coming into university to kind of give them the knowledge that they need to be aware of mental health issues and to make them aware of the impact of university. So it was available to all students, but what we tried to do was to provide some target groups as well. So there were clubs and societies, the course reps. So those sessions were coordinated via the Students' Union, but we also tried to get some sessions included as part of the curriculum, and we did manage that, but I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So we did have those sessions that were within the curriculum, and I think they were very effective, but also there was some sessions booked as part of the extracurricular scheme. So on a Wednesday afternoon, there's a whole range of different sessions that are available for students to participate in, and we had open sessions booked as part of that scheme as well. And then we had open sessions booked at other times as well, so students could just book onto them at various times during the day, and there were some early evening ones as well. So what the sessions focused on were the signs of poor mental well-being, and looking at the challenges once you start at university, and it became really critical for some students who started last academic year, because they may be in a university accommodation, living away from home and having no interaction face to face with anyone. So it was a particularly challenging year, as we all know. And then the sessions we tried to make them fit in with the timetable or times that were good for students, because we're aware that a lot of our students, particularly at Teesside, possibly work full time as well as study full time. So they have very challenging time management issues to deal with. So we had them booked at various days and times to increase accessibility for the students. So we had some good feedback from the sessions. So in year one, we can see that those sessions were delivered face to face, and we had 129 students attended, and there was a kind of a good overall rating. But if we look at the second year, it very much improved the overall rating. So students did feel that they were incredibly beneficial, and we did have more students attending going into the second year as well of the project. The next set of sessions that were offered were called Tools and Techniques for Student Mental Health. It was a 4-week course, and the sessions were 2 hours per week, and plus there was homework in between times. So you can see that there was a very large time commitment for these sessions, and these were basically students who attended these were referrals from our counselling team from their appointments with students. So it was obviously in negotiation and discussed with the students, but it was kind of via that route. So it was open to all students as well. So there was some open sessions that were available, but the main route was the via referral. And every week there was a different topic. So just looking at what was identified as things that could impact them when at university. And then there was giving time to students to see the techniques in practice as well. So there's lots of content in there for students to interact with, and lots of resources to tap into once the session had finished, and various days and times as well. So the feedback in the first year, you can see that there was a fairly low uptake, but you think about the first year of the project, moving into the early 2020, that's when things stopped dead. So you can see that that academic year was severely impacted. And then into the second year, less students attended, but the overall rating has improved. But 100% of students were more confident going forward. So you can see that we do feel that it had a positive impact upon them. And then finally, looking after your mental health at work, that was a 2-hour interactive online session. So we did target some particular groups for these sessions. So in the school that I liaise with, because I'm an academic librarian for social sciences, humanities and law, there is an employability module at level 5, so the second year students. So we targeted that particular module. So that was going to be embedded within the curriculum for those. And then we also felt within our school, we also have social work. So we thought it was really incredibly important for social workers to be involved with this particular module, because they're almost immediately out on placement, and being in placement during a pandemic, obviously very, very challenging. However, once we'd tried to open negotiations with the social work staff, we found out that there was similar provision being provided that was aimed specifically at social workers. So they chose that particular route instead. So it was available to all students, especially applicable to final year students. So that's who we were trying to get on board with it, but we did manage to get some particular groups at other levels as well, like the example that I've just given you. It was to just support students to think about moving into the workplace. And one thing that had come up from some lecturers who were teaching on the employability module was how students deal with knockbacks from not even getting interviews when they had applied for jobs. That was a particular area that had come up in student feedback a lot, that they found it incredibly difficult to keep resilient when they applied for lots of jobs but didn't even get an interview, got no feedback whatsoever. So it was those kind of particular issues that were drawn out in the discussion sessions. and we tried to book them in at lots of good times that worked for the students. So you can see, you know, decent numbers the first time round, and then for the next year two, there wasn't a huge amount of students who actually attended the sessions. So we'll talk about that going forward. So what we learnt from the student sessions then. So student engagement, we thought that student engagement was very good indeed. There was lots of open questions where students could discuss openly, and we found that most students had either have a lived experience of mental health problems, or they had supported somebody who had had mental health problems as well. We said it was absolutely fine to be silent, and one of the issues that had come up when we had kind of worked on how we were going to deliver the sessions in year two of the pilot was having cameras on or off, because Sinead felt it was important that cameras were on to make sure, thinking about their safeguarding and whether the participants were okay or not. So that was an issue, and whether students felt confident using the mics as well, because what we often find is that students are quite happy to put stuff in the chat but may not necessarily speak up. So the chat function was used extensively, and then the breakout rooms were used extensively as well to break the groups into smaller groups, so people felt more comfortable speaking in that environment. And use techniques such as polls to increase that interactivity within the sessions. So as I said, that was an issue with the cameras not being on, because we didn't know whether the students were engaging with the session and whether they were okay or not, because one of the particular issues that's discussed is suicide awareness, and Sinead always gave the students warning that that was coming up as an issue that was going to be discussed, and so you've got time to kind of prepare yourself for that particular topic. So that's all related to the safeguarding concerns. And a big issue was students who signed up but then didn't attend, and that happened hugely. So it looked like we were going to get great numbers, and then on the day itself, they didn't actually show up. Now, I think this is true for any sessions that happened during the pandemic. I don't think it's purely related to these sessions. I know it happened in general teaching as well, but it really had a big impact on the project, because Mind were paying for trainers to deliver these sessions, and then if nobody attended, they still had to cover the costs of the sessions being delivered by a professional trainer. So it was a real issue, that. So you can look at the numbers there, so you can see that for Wellbeing Essentials, we had lots of sign-ups, and then less than half actually turned up. So you can see the difference in the people who signed up and then students who actually attended. But when it was part of the curriculum, it did have much better attendance. So we kind of were really pressing for it to become part of the curriculum, if at all possible. So the successes were the students finding the course really helpful and informative, and we got some really good comments from the students, which I'll have a selection on the screen shortly. But it was really positive, the feedback that we got. Students like the opportunity to talk about mental health and to talk about it openly, and this was particularly true for some international students, because in their home country there may be a particular stigma about mental health, and so you just don't talk about it. So to get the opportunity to be able to discuss it with your peers and with other people, that was they really appreciated that. And one of the spin-offs of the project was that students themselves set up a peer support group that's coordinated with the Students' Union, and that's still going, that's still run throughout the summer period as well. And I continue to kind of be part of that group. So there's so we're taking that forward because we thought that was a really positive thing. And so there's one of the representatives of the Students' Union officers is at the group each week, and then there's also myself and a colleague from our department who go along to the sessions as well. And we expect that once the academic year starts that we'll have more students attending as well. So the student feedback, we've got some excellent comments here. I'm not going to leave them on for very long, but you can see that students really found them very, very beneficial attending these sessions. And then there's some more here. So it's an opportunity for students to share. They're like that, to be able to share their experience of mental health issues and how they coped. So the overall learning, those that students do want to talk about mental health. It's not something that we want to lose sight of either. We want to continue to provide those opportunities. They're more likely to attend the sessions if they're part of the timetable curriculum. And they like the sessions being interactive. And then we need to think of ways that can actually change those sign-ups into actual attendances. Just moving on then to finish off with the next steps of the project. So the project has formally ended now, but we didn't want to lose the momentum that we'd gained. So what we're doing is we're going to be doing some sessions in Welcome Week, and we're piloting with 2 schools. So the school that I liaise with, Social Sciences, Humanities and Law, and then the health students as well. And we've got some timetabled sessions that are going to go ahead into the Welcome Week timetables, because we thought it was really good to kind of get this embedded in the curriculum from the outset, so that there wasn't a time lag, and particularly with that thinking about student expectations of moving into university, possibly moving away from home, those kinds of issues. If we can get that in Welcome Week, that's absolutely great. And the sessions are going to be recorded, and we'll make the recordings available to the other schools within the university as well. But what we wanted to do was to make sure that we could definitely have those sessions within the timetable of 2 schools at least. So that was done in coordination with the Associate Director who looks after mental health in our department.
There's 5 minutes remaining, Fran, including questions.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are recording the session so that it can be used and possibly embedded within modules within the VLE. What we've also done is Sinead did some train the trainer sessions with us, so that we have the materials that we can then take this project forward, which is absolutely wonderful. And what we're going to do going forward as well is to evaluate these sessions so we can make a potential bid for funding so we can kind of spin it out and take it further to other schools as well. But what we also want to be able to do is to fund further work with Mind as an organisation, our local Mind. So that's why we need to get that evaluation data. So that's going to be a priority as well. So I shall stop now and see if there are any questions, and I'll stop sharing the screen as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Fran. That was really, really interesting. So I'm going to hand it over to the attendees this meeting. If you could put your hand up if you have a question. While we're waiting, Fran, I did notice a bit of a call for action on your slide around advice on how to turn those sign-ups into attendees. Yes. I was wondering, are you able to contact the people who signed up but didn't attend and ask why they didn't attend?
Well, that's a possibility, yes. Yeah, so we can try that at least, if we can get the contact details. Yeah, so I'll have to contact Sinead for that. But yes, to follow up. But I do it as well. I sign up for things and then think, oh, I don't think I can make it after all.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be reassuring, you know, that people just didn't have the time or whatever, so you're not doing anything wrong. You're offering the right sessions. It's just that people don't have the time. So yeah, it might be worth asking. I don't know if anybody else in the room has any other suggestions.
No.
Okay. Well, if people wanted to get in contact with you, Fran, what's the best way?
Well, I didn't put my email address on the slides, did I? I'll add it to the slides, and then I'll send them back to the organising group.
Brilliant.
Yeah. But it's just f.porritt at tees.ac.uk.
Excellent. Oh, and Michelle has a very helpful suggestion there in the chat. She said sending some pre-reading or activities can help engage and remind participants. So that might be a good thing to do. But yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Fran. And thank you as well to our other short paper speakers, Nicola and Lesley, for their engaging paper as well. Just a couple of things to remind you of. At 1:15, so in 7 minutes, there is the presentation from our gold sponsor, Adam Matthew Digital. So please do go along to that. And then at 4:30, we have our quiz. So if you don't fancy the quiz, though, we have our cake and chat channel as well in Teams for you to go along and do some socializing and networking. We'd also love to get your feedback about the conference so far. You'll notice that there is a feedback form in the feedback channel. If you're only attending for today, then if you could fill in the feedback form, that would be really, really great. And then finally, we have a treasure hunt as well, a sponsored treasure hunt with a chance to win prizes. So look out for the sponsored treasure hunt in the e-brochure as well. So all that remains for me to do is to thank everybody for coming along. And I will see you in other sessions. Bye all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.